Hey everyone, welcome to the analysis for September 12th. It's Wednesday today, and so the markets are in the middle of the week moving well. We're going to talk about a few setups and a few things that we touched on yesterday and what we might expect as far as continuation or pullbacks on those. In my opinion, the euro and the pound will have some interesting moves over the next day or two based on different news and things like that, so we'll look at that. And also check some of the other pairs we talked about, like the AUD dollar, and get into that. Before we go there, first we're going to hit our news. We've got some major news coming up tomorrow, so let's take a look at that. Okay guys, so as you can see, tomorrow, Thursday, is filled with quite a bit of news. A few major things to look out for, of course, unemployment. Always on Thursdays we're looking out for that. But probably larger is the FOMC economic projections and also the FOMC press conference. Now, the reason that these are going to play such a huge role, at least according to our fundamental expert Tony College, is that there's a lot of people saying that QE3 could be announced tomorrow. Now, obviously, we've heard these rumors before, and it's kind of like a coin flip of whether it's a total joke or it's actually going to happen. But Tony gave me a stat that something like 60+% of economists think that the third round is going to be release tomorrow of quantitative easing. So keep an eye out for that, and make sure that if something that major does happen in the market, that you're prepared for the consequences that would create, obviously. Alright guys, so that is some of our major news. Depending on what happens with that, the market should react pretty heavily. And also quickly, before we get going here, let's check out our terms. Alright guys, so these are the terms that we go over every day during the analysis. It's just something to make it clear that everyone watching knows that this is for educational purposes only, and that we're not registered as a broker, a dealer, or investment advisor, or anything like that. We're not registered. We're just here running a website and giving you our information, or our opinion on the Forex market. That's all it is, okay? So important that you know that for legal purposes, because we don't want to get in trouble, and we don't want you to sue us either. So win-win. Alright, let's go ahead and jump into the real fun stuff, the analysis for today. Alright guys, so we're going to go through the pairs here, obviously first starting on the euro dollar. And one thing that I want to be clear, I got a few comments on my last article, or my last video. By the way guys, thank you for the comments. I really appreciate all the comments that were left, and I hope you continue to leave them, because it really gives me some insight as to what you're thinking and whether I'm being helpful, and what things I could do better to be helpful. So I really appreciate it, and I would encourage you to continue to leave comments below, so that I can get some interaction. And one thing that I learned from the comments was that people were not always clear what time frame I was looking at. So I want to be more clear on that. Today we'll only be looking at the daily time frame. So every chart that you see, euro dollar, AUD dollar, pound dollar, it doesn't matter, it's always going to be daily charts today. And that will be most days, but not always. And so I'll try to be more clear on that. But just know that these are the daily charts. So that's something that I got some feedback in the comments. It's just a way that can help me be better at what I do. And obviously, if I'm better at what I'm doing, it's going to help you in your trading. So it's definitely a win-win situation. So be sure to leave a comment and get the interaction. And also, if you don't mind, share and tweet these videos so that we can reach more people. Okay guys, so as you can see, the euro dollar is on this uptrend. We talked about yesterday how we had this great little move here where we broke out pretty strong. I don't know why my line is not in the right place here. Let me fix that. That was the level we're looking at right there. Sorry about that. Okay. So we're looking at this level here where it was broken, obviously, and showed strong continuation. We built a little base here with these two bars. And then yesterday's bar, obviously, was a new high of the recent bar. So my expectation was that we would see some continuation just based on this pattern, because this is a strong break, pullback, and continuation pattern, in my opinion, which is normally a pretty high probability setup, and that is what we see here. Some slight continuation. Now, obviously, today's bar wasn't a massive bullish bar that was going to make you rich, but at least it is some consistency. And the one thing I talked about yesterday is that I'm expecting price to come back into this range because this level is a very major level in the market, and often these levels act as a magnet to pull price up towards them. So That's something that I'm still certainly expecting. Now, with all the news coming out tomorrow, including that FOMC statement, it makes me a little bit nervous to be confident in any kind of direction, because obviously, depending on what the news is, this thing could do a nosedive or it could explode right through that level, and there's really no way to tell. My advice would be that if you're already long, hold on to that position, continue to target a higher level, and just make sure that you have a tight conservative stop loss, so that if there is very good dollar news that would drive euro dollar down, that you're ready for that, and that you're not getting hurt on that news. Obviously, if you have some profit already, which you should if you took a long yesterday, you don't want to give away that profit because of the news. So that's my advice there. Overall, generally speaking, I'm still expecting this level to come into play. I'm still thinking that it's pulling price up, that it is acting as a magnet, and that price does want to come and test that level again, because it hasn't tested it in quite some time. So that's still my opinion on that, and I'm expecting it to get there eventually. But of course, with the news tomorrow, you got to be extra careful, and be careful that your expectations aren't too confident or too biased, because a lot of times what happens is you're so sure of one thing, and then if the news comes out and changes that, your stubbornness, so to speak, kind of gets you in trouble with a losing trade, which of course we don't want to do. So that's my opinion on the euro dollar. Again, still expecting that move up, still expecting that level to come into play, but just making sure that the news is in the front of your mind, and that you are not too biased that you let that news take away your profit. All right. Very similarly, obviously, to the euro dollar, we have the pound dollar. So let's take a look at that. All right, so guys, here's the pound dollar chart, and again, you're familiar with this. We talk about it almost every day. The strong break of this level, the pullback back into the previous resistance, and the launch forward. So a great signal, one that we talked about while it was happening. I'm sure a lot of you made money on that, and it's a great signal. But the question is, how does it go from here? Obviously, price is starting to look a bit overextended on the pound, because there hasn't been any kind of pullback. It's just one little bar here as far as this recent leg that's showing any kind of red, and so price is looking too steep. It's getting too high for what you'd expect. Now, thinking like that is sometimes dangerous, because then you think, oh, I just need to short just because it's too high, and then it continues to cruise right up and smashes your stop loss. So I'm not suggesting a short by any stretch. One thing that I would say is that at this point where price gets this high, where it's this straight up, you got to pay a lot of attention to any resistance in the way. So if you're holding a pound dollar long and you're up big, I'm not saying that you should close out of that and you should take your profit and run, because this thing could go up another 1,000 pips. But it is something that makes me think about the idea that the market is going to want to push us back down eventually, because the market doesn't trade that easily for very long, before it begins to knock people out of trade. So, my thing with pound dollar is just to be careful for any big pullbacks. But at the same time, a new pullback represents a new trading opportunity as well, because if we do get a pullback on the daily chart here, a new daily long obviously could represent a great opportunity to jump back on this upward trend. So that's something that I'm thinking about. And then, of course, you can't think about the pound dollar without thinking the same thing that you did on the euro, that the news is coming out tomorrow for the dollar especially, and that could greatly affect some long-term views of the dollar. So if the dollar gets some very bad news tomorrow, this thing could continue to accelerate. It could actually even accelerate more and really go straight up. So I'm thinking that with pound dollar, it's just a situation where go ahead and take advantage of the pound strength, the fact that the euro and pound are moving with a lot of strength against the dollar. But be careful with your major levels, and also don't be afraid to jump back on this bandwagon, this pound bandwagon, if we get some negative dollar news, because it's something that could run for a long time and provide a lot of good trade opportunities to the upside. So that's my feeling with pound. For me, it's just a better currency than the euro. I think the pound, for some reason, I just have more confidence in the pound than the euro. And that's just my personal bias, of course, but I think that if the dollar is weak over the long term, and the pound and the euro are both rising against it, that the pound is probably going to rise more. That's just my personal opinion. but you know, and we'll have to wait and see how that works out. But I just think that the pound has a little more, you know, economic strength behind it, I guess. All right, let's check out the AUD dollar too. All right, guys. So this is the AUD, and like the pound, we had a key break here several weeks ago, and we're looking for whether or not we're going to get, you know, whether this is a pullback and it's going to continue down, or whether this is actually a continuation of the former uptrend. So that's kind of the question with AUD, at least in my opinion. And what it's looking like now is that AUD is rallying pretty consistently. Obviously, today's bar has a little bit of tail at the top, but to me that doesn't really mean much. So many bars in the market have tails because it's always faking people out and pushing people out. So I'm not really concerned about that. What I am concerned about is when it gets up to this level here, which is the previous channel level, obviously. And I think what we'll find out then is whether or not this thing's going to break right through here, you know, retest, continue up, or is it going to bounce off this trend line and actually reverse and make a lower low than what we see here. So my anticipation as far as AUD is what it's going to do at this level. Now, obviously, that's assuming that it's going to get to that level, and I don't know that that's true, but that's my expectation, is that eventually it's going to get up to this level, and we're going to see something happen. And if we get a strong reversal to the downside, I'm going to want to jump in short as high as I can. And if we have a good breakthrough, I'm going to want to get in as low as I can. So that's kind of the two opportunities here. To me, it kind of depends on how it reacts on that trend line, and that's really all I'm waiting to see as far as AUD's concerned. And you know, that's what I would advise, is waiting for that level. Now, if you're already in the AUD and you're long and you're you know, you have profit, then go for it, hold on, and hope it does break that level, because then you'll be in really nice shape. But if you're not in a position and you're just waiting, that's the level that I'd be thinking about personally. All right, let's check out the pound yen. So like we talked about, the pound yen's at a pretty crucial resistance as well right now, and it's backed off to some extent, but not totally. And if you watched my analysis yesterday, what I was looking for was actually some continuation from this rounding motion to the upside. And obviously it's not what we got, because the pound backed off this resistance level pretty heavily. But one thing that I still believe is that the pound yen has some potential to go long term to the buy side. And so right now we have somewhat of a good daily bar. It's not a bar that breaks right back through that level, but it is sitting, you know, on some, you know, previous tails. So that's, you know, something. It's not a major level, but it's something. And it is showing some continuation. So if tomorrow we get a bar that breaks right through and it looks good, then I'm going to probably be back on that pound yen long bias, because I think that the pound yen has potential to be a very long-term trade. It hasn't traded very trendy recently. Our last big move was this one that you can see here. Recently, even inside these little moves, we've had a lot of chop. And obviously, very recently, there's been almost no movement whatsoever. So I think the pound yen is due for a big move, and I want to be on board when that happens. A break of this level and continuation, to me, would represent a good opportunity to get on that. So that's what I'm looking for in the pound yen. Tomorrow's daily bar should tell us something about that. Speaking of the pound, let's go to that euro pound, where we do have some continuation. Remember, this was a pretty critical break here that we showed on the euro, which is actually showing that euro is stronger than pound, which is actually, you know, kind of opposite of my feeling about, you know, trusting the pound a little bit more than the euro. And of course, the reason for that is because, you know, if you look at the long-term trend, it's very down. The euro has been weaker than the pound for the most part. So that's obviously where my bias comes from. But if we look, you know, shorter term, we can see that the euro actually has been stronger than the pound for what's it been, you know, since here. So I guess that's end of July. We've shown consistent movement up, be it that it wasn't, you know, really strong momentum moves to the upside, but still, it's built up, it's made higher highs. So to the euro credit, it is making moves, and this was obviously a huge day for the euro, where it broke this key level and had one of the biggest bullish days in the euro pound that we've seen in a long time. So the question, of course, after a move like that is whether or not we're going to see consistent follow-through. Is this massive bar that makes a lot of ground and breaks through a critical level the start of a new upward move? And I still haven't decided whether I'm buying into that. But, you know, we haven't seen a total collapse right back down into below the level. So maybe this is legitimate, and maybe we're going to see some continuation. Obviously, what I want to see is an actual close above the top of the level, which we haven't seen yet. So this bar has actually not really been closed above since it happened, and now obviously I'm going to need to see at least that in order to buy into this euro strength against the pound. So that's something that I'm waiting for, and I think that the euro has potential to do that because it's been in a downtrend for a long time. So the market moves and it changes, and we could see a fundamental change in the euro pound. But it's going to have to be backed up by some technical signs here. So that's all I'm waiting for on that one, and perhaps we'll see that relatively soon. One more pound pair. Let's check out the pound AUD. Now the pound AUD I'm a little disappointed in because I was expecting some nice continuation from yesterday's downward movement, and you can see that the day started off, we moved down like 65 pips or so, showing a little bit of downward force, but obviously at the end of the day this now looks like an upward tail pushing bar. So that doesn't make me too happy based on what I was expecting with the pound AUD. Now we are at a level here. You can see that this level corresponds at this base, so that could be playing a role in it. I don't think that this means that we're pushing right back up and we're gonna see this. I'm not necessarily thinking that is what's happening, but at the same time I want to be ready for that if that does happen, because the pound AUD has a ton of upward momentum. I think Rob commented and said that he's looking for pound AUD buys because the pound AUD is moving up recently, and that's very true. So you don't want to be biased majorly short when the pound AUD looks like this over a recent period of time, and I certainly agree with that. However, at the same time, I don't want to jump into longs just because of one bar when I think that this actually has some potential to move down, and so I'm still holding on to that short possibility and thinking that we might get some continuation of the downside. That's obviously going to be determined over a matter of time, and we'll see how that follows through, whether or not we do get some continuation to the downside, or if this is just a pullback to higher highs. That's totally up in the air as far as I'm concerned. And again, news and other things are going to determine how that moves, in my opinion. All right, let's check out the US yen here real quick. I think this will be our last pair. And the US yen, is a pair that I mentioned that has not had a lot of great movement. We had this trend forming here that lasted for a decent amount of time. You can see that it was moving down for a decent amount of time, and then we got stuck in a sideways market, which seems to happen a lot with the US yen. So we were stuck in this range for quite a period of time on the daily chart here, and there's a fake out here that came right back into it, kind of an attempt to break out there with those two tails, and then a strong push through the bottom, which is obviously what we see currently. So what I mentioned yesterday was what I'm expecting here is to see whether this retests and actually does move down, or if we just pop right back into this channel like we did on the last move. And again, I think because the US yen has not moved a lot lately, that's another pair that could have long-term potential if we catch it at a good time. So hopefully, this is actually going to give us an opportunity to trade it as a long-term possibility. And right now, I don't think that's really decided yet. We're still obviously sitting relatively still, based on the small bar that happened today. So news again. How many times am I going to say this? News again could really affect how that moves, and we'll have to maybe wait to make our expectations until at least tomorrow to see what's happening there. Alright, so those are some of the things I'm looking at. I apologize, today's analysis may be a little bit boring, not a lot of great setups because a decent amount of stall out and not really some great new trade setups. But I think after tomorrow we'll definitely have something to show, because the market is probably going to be pretty interesting. Alright guys, make sure you tune in tomorrow to check it out after the news announcements, and I'll talk to you soon.